Hi everybody. So today we're going to be doing a short practice which is focused on releasing lower back discomfort. So we're going to be thinking about some really soft, gentle forward folds and extension backwards in terms of the shapes we come to. We're going to be opening up through the side body, which is going to free up a little bit of space on the outside line of the lumbar spine in particular as well. And then we're going to come around and work our way into the front of the hip. And the psoas muscle, one of the hip flexor muscles, it starts in the lumbar spine, it connects into the lower back and travels through to the inner thigh. So just mobilizing that area and the areas I mentioned just before should give us a little bit more sense of space and ease in the lower back here, okay? So let's just take a moment to find a comfortable seat. And some of you might like to sit on a block underneath your hips, and some of you might feel like you're more comfortable just grounding down and connecting directly to the floor. Sit up nice and tall. So as you do that, I want you to almost lean back a little bit. You'll feel the belly engage a little under your fingertips here. And then lift up through the crown of the head. So there's this feeling of length and space in between the spine. And see if you can maintain that length and space in the upper body and yet soften and relax a little here. And we'll take the palms to face upward, a little strengthening of the upper back as we come into stillness. And then just let your eyelids begin to close. Let the tongue relax away from the roof of the mouth. Let the lips either lightly touch or gently fall apart. There's a softness in between the eyebrows and around the outside edges of the eyes. And a feeling of lightness, a feeling of ease working its way into all of those tiny little muscles around the eyes and the mouth. And as you sit here in stillness, just take a moment to notice how it feels mentally to move away from everything that you've already been doing today. All of the things that you might have seen or read or talked about or thought about. All of the actions that you've already taken. And just see if you can let them sit to one side as you give yourself this window of time to be just with yourself. Noticing how the body feels, noticing how the mind feels. Following the breath as a simple anchor for your mind. And in a similar way, can you start to let go of any thinking about the future? Anything that comes directly after the class or later in the week, later in the month or the year. We have this habit of racing backward in time, reflecting on things that have already happened. And then often taking that information and applying it to how we think the future might look. Particularly when the future feels a little out of our control right now. And I want to encourage in every practice that we have together this ability to just be in the present moment. To deal with what's in front of us moment by moment and to start to train the brain to focus on the breath as a way to start to create a little space in the mind. So as you sit here in silence, just notice how that feels to be here with nothing else to think about, nothing else to do, nowhere else that you need to be. And notice if that feeling of ease starts to arrive, or if with the freedom and space to be still, the mind starts to fill up with your to-do list. Or whatever it is that starts to ease its way into this new space that you start to create. And if anything does appear in the mind, let it be okay, but just see if you can add a label to it. So if it's something to do with your work, just labeling it work. Or if it's something to do with food, labeling it food. And as these things appear, just adding a simple label and noticing how when you give them that simple label, things just continue to move on through without permission to linger longer by adding any further consideration to them. And sometimes this ability to be present, moving away from the things that have happened, moving away from the unknown, allows us to create this space that feels safe and calm and grounded for our nervous system. And when we feel safe and calm and grounded, we move ourselves into this calmer part of our nervous system, which allows all of the tension that builds up in our tissues to slowly unravel. And over time, with a dedicated practice, it starts to melt away. And then we notice our aches and pains, our physical tensions in the body start to melt away as well. So let this be a practice that you continue throughout the flowing part of the class, maybe even taking that practice into the rest of your day. A gentle reminder not to get caught up in the detail of what appears in your mind, and giving yourself a focus moment by moment to allow you to stay anchored into what you're doing, where you are, the conversations that you're having, the things that are your priority, and letting go of everything else. So just take a moment here to take a nice deep inhale through the nose, sit a little taller through the spine. And then keep that height as you begin to exhale and just slowly release. Feel the tension melting away as you do. And we're going to do that 2 more times. Nice, long, deep, indulgent breath into the lungs. All of that expansion in the upper body. And then slowly drawing back to center everything that we want to hold on to, and yet softening and releasing as we breathe out. Last big breath like this. Energy drawing in. And then exhaling away all of the tension. And then keep the length in the spine that you've already discovered so far today, and just gently let the eyelids begin to open. Let's take our left hand down to the ground, right hand up to the sky, and on the exhale, slowly reaching over to the side of the room. And there's a little bend in that left elbow. As you inhale, can you draw the shoulder back just a touch? And as you exhale, can the fingers explore a bit more space as they reach away from the starting point of the hips on the ground? Space in that area in the lower back, a little mobility for the spine. Getting rid of some of the congestion and tension that lingers around the lower back for so many of us from this modern day way of being and thinking and living. And then let's slowly carry ourselves back up through center. The hand comes down to the ground, the other arm reaches all the way up and over. And I want you to just breathe in as you draw the shoulder back and breathe out as you extend through the fingers. And we want to really use the breath to create the space in the body today. So notice how that feels to breathe into the tissues in between the ribs. And you know that you're helping those breathing muscles to get more efficient, so that we can draw more energy in with every breath that we take. We can push out all of the stale energy from the moments before. Inhale back through center, just 1 more time in each direction. Left hand down, elbows soft, fingers reaching, and already you might start to be aware of space arriving into the body here. Inhale the shoulder back. Exhale a little bit more freedom, and we're getting into the QL and lower side stomach muscles here. Big breath. Nice, and then just slowly come back up through center. It's our last time in this direction. Right hand down, left hand reaching up and over. And I want you to just explore if, like me, you have a side that feels easier to move into. Sometimes I can feel quite congested, and it's often in certain places. And as I come to my mat again and again, I begin to notice the patterns, the habits that I find forming in the body. Inhale back up through center. Keep the spine nice and long. And we're going to take a big breath in. Arms are going to lift up to the sky. And as we exhale, we're twisting our upper body over to the left side of the room. And we're going to take our right hand to the outside of the knee. And left hand is going to go behind the back, fingertips to the floor. As we inhale, we're lifting up through the spine, but we're also hugging the belly and side stomach muscles in here, supporting the spine. And on our exhale, we're actively drawing chest, ribs, and shoulder around. And I want you to consider the neck moving as the last part of the twist. We have this habit of thinking we're twisting by just drawing the neck and head around. But I want you to think about the twist as really coming from the very center of your ribs, center of your upper body. And every breath in is that engaged core lifting you up through the crown of the head, spine lengthening. And every breath out is that ability to move deeper into the twist. So we start to create more space in those breathing muscles and the upper part of our back, the lesser mobile part, simply because it's housing the lungs and the heart, those vital organs for us. And we want to really see how this feels to take another breath in and lift up taller through the spine. Another breath out. Can we use the breath, releasing tension to move deeper into the shapes? And then on our inhale, let's slowly unwind back to center, fingers up to the sky. And on our exhale, we're twisting now to the opposite side. And we're taking our left hand to the outside of the right knee, right hand to the lower back, or the ground behind our lower back. The inhale is hugging everything in around the center. And the exhale is that drawing back of right ribs, chest, and shoulder now. And we want to maintain that firmness through center. So the side stomach muscles are joining in, the QL, those areas we were just stretching out before. Every breath in, we sit a little taller. And every breath out, we draw a little further back. Exploring space, and all of these little movements of the spine start to mobilize this web of fascia that's holding us together. It's everywhere in the body. And when there are congested areas, bits that we don't move so much, or injuries that we're healing from, we start to get little areas that are tight, and they pull on other areas, which is often what creates this feeling of pain or discomfort in the body. Take another big breath here. And as we mobilize the spine in all of the directions that we can, we start to free up, particularly tension in the lower back. And of course, there's lots of other reasons for tension here as well. A weaker core, weaker hip stabilizers, lots of different things. And then just slowly unwind, come back to face forwards. And once you're there, go ahead and come over into tabletop position. So you've got your hips above your knees, shoulders above your wrists, fingers are nice and wide. And on our inhale, we're softening the belly, the tailbone lifts a little, chest comes forward, shoulders draw back. And as we exhale, we're pushing the ground away, rounding through the spine, and we're lifting up through the back line of the body here. And the inhale, chest comes forward, tailbone lifts, and we're just gently mobilizing that lower back area, mobilizing through mid and upper back as well. And keep on following the breath. We're going to take 3 rounds of simple cat and cow shape. Simple in the sense that we're just going back and forth, but so much wonderful stuff happening through the fascia and muscles in the body. And hydration coming into those little energy pathways in the body here as well. Creating more of a glide in between the layers of tissue in the body, between the cells, between the muscles, and our organs. Last breath. Okay, and then let's just slowly come back into center, and we want to work a little bit with stability here. So we're going to push into the left hand, left foot, top of the foot, top of the bottom of the right hand, and I want you to just extend the right leg away from you, and then keep everything strong in the core. Lift that leg up and reach it back. Collarbone is broad, and if it feels okay for you, you're going to reach left hand forward. So you're reaching away in opposite directions, heel reaching back and ball of the foot reaching back. Fingertips reaching forward. And you want to make sure the core is nice and strong. You'll feel the glutes engage and hamstrings. And it's just nice from time to time to really focus on strengthening that back line of the body. Often discomfort in the lower back comes from weaknesses in the body. And often it is linked to muscles that are not doing their job as efficiently as they can. And the body is designed fully to be efficient. So when something is working that isn't working optimally or to the best it can, and another muscle has to pick up its job, it's not going to do it as well as the muscle that's designed for the job. So it's going to cause a little discrepancy in the body. So when you finish your breath, you're going to place the hand down first, and then just lower knee and foot down to the ground. And then go ahead and extend left leg away. Push down through the top of right hand, bottom of left hand. Pick up left leg, reach it back. Make sure the belly doesn't drop. You're going to keep nice and firm here. And then reach your right hand forward. And again, there's that feeling of everything around the core drawing in to stabilize the spine, and then glutes on the outer hip and hamstring reaching away through the heel of the foot here. Collarbone nice and broad. And then if it feels okay, the fingers are going forward. And you'll feel the power through the entire back line of the body. So all of the muscles along the back of the spine, stabilizing, supporting. Your gaze is just down. You might wobble a little, so you're going to use everything that's connecting to the floor to really grip and push. Take another breath. And this movement in terms of balance, of strength and flexibility, is going to help us to release any discomfort in the back. So go ahead and place the hand back down first. Knee and foot come down. Walk the fingers a little forward. Tuck the toes under, lift the knee. First downward dog of the day for some of us. So let's push the ground away with the hands, lift up high through the hips. Thighs are reaching back. And we're going to start by walking the dog. So you're lifting one heel, bending the same knee. And as you do that, just notice how that feels through the back of the leg. Start with the lower ankle area and the Achilles, back of the heel. How does it feel through the calf muscle, a little further up behind the knee? How does it feel around the hamstrings? Lifting up the hips high to the sky as you push the ground away is elongating the spine, so we're lengthening here as well. And that's the final of the 5 directions that the spine moves in here. So we've twisted, we've flexed forward, we've extended backward with cat and cow, we've bent sideways. Now we're lengthening. So let's put the weight into the left foot, right foot lifts. And to begin with, just draw the toes in a little. I want you to keep the hips in line with each other. So it's a nice straight line from your hands, and your hands are still pushing the ground away. And again, this is a continuation of what we were doing just before on the ground. So you're strengthening that back line of the body here. Take another breath. And then lower the foot down to the ground. Switch to the left leg. Left leg lifts. Toes roll in a little, internal rotation of that bigger bone in the leg, and lift up through the back of the leg. So you're really working with glutes and hamstrings here. Hands push the earth away, hips are in line, spine is nice and long. Nice big breath. And then place left foot down. Second time, right leg lifts, except this time bend the knee. Now open the hip up to the side of the room. So you're squeezing heel to bottom, which is still activating muscles that we were doing just before, but now there's an opening of that right hip here. Take a nice big breath. And then square the hip to face the ground. Step the foot between the hands. Let's lower left knee to the floor. Come onto the top of the foot, fingers up to the sky. So we come into our low crescent, staying close to the ground. Belly draws in and away from that front thigh. Use the feet to steady yourself. Sinking down into the hips. Take another big breath. Notice how it feels to get into psoas, front of that left hip, so really finding space there. Upper back strong, almost like you're squeezing inner thighs in towards each other, strengthening and stabilizing different parts of the thighs. And imagine you're squeezing a block in between the hands, so at the same time strengthening upper back. And the more we can make all of the muscles throughout the whole body function well, the more we're supporting and stabilizing the spine and hips, and the more efficiently we carry ourselves. Let's take right hand down to the thigh. Lift up on the inhale with fingertips on the left hand. And as you exhale, lean over to the right. So you're still getting into front of that left hip, but now we come up to QL, lower back area here again. Take another big breath. And then just slowly release the hands down to the ground. Tuck the toes, lift the knee, and let's step it back to downward facing dog. Hands push the ground away, hips nice and high. Inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, bend the knee, open the hip to the side of the room. Squeeze the heel towards the bottom. Lift up more through the left knee so you get more feeling through the front of left hip. And then you're going to square the hips really slowly to face the ground. Step that left foot forward between the hands now. Lower right knee down. Come onto the top of the foot. Draw belly in. Fingers reach up to the sky. And we're sinking down with the intention of trying to get into psoas. And you'll remember earlier I mentioned psoas attaches into lower back here. So when the length of the muscle, the start and end point, is in its normal range, you have a good balance between front and back body. When it's shortened from extended periods of sitting down, or for the cyclists and runners who are using this muscle again and again, it becomes shortened, okay? It becomes tight. And when it's tight, it tends to tilt the pelvic bowl forward. And when we're sitting down a lot, it gets tight, tilting, the same effect. And of course, that pulls on the lower back, so it doesn't feel so nice. So we're creating a little bit of length. See if you can sink a bit deeper into that hip. And then keep belly drawing in away from the thigh. Left hand is going to come down to the thigh. Inhale, taking right hand up to the sky. Exhale, reaching over to the left. Notice that lengthening motion through right side body here as well. Should feel really good. One more breath here. And of course, you can stay longer if you want to, or when you practice this yourself. Nice. And then release the hands down either side of the foot. Tuck the right toes, lift the knee. This time come into forward fold. And you're going to bend the knees a little bit here. Okay. Weight is going to come into the front of the foot and the back of the foot. And we're just going to slowly interlace the fingers behind the back. Head reaching down. Belly drawn lightly in towards the spine. And that act of engaging through the core draws the upper body closer to the legs. Squeeze the hands towards each other. See if you can really reach the hands away from lower back. Lengthening through the back line of the body. Knowing that we're finding a little bit of space here. Just one more breath. Opening up around the front of the chest. Nice. And then just slowly release the fingers down. Belly draws into the spine and ragdoll-like roll yourself up. Vertebrae by vertebrae, hands coming into heart center once you're standing. As you inhale, reach the arms up, a little lift of the heart here. And as you exhale, really slowly start to hinge from the hips, come through to forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, spine long. Hands down, step back to plank. And chaturanga all the way down. Let's come onto the tops of the feet, interlace the fingers behind the back, locust pose as you lift the chest and ribs, feet lifting as well. And this is, again, strengthening back line of the body, so a little bit of a preventative measure of lower back discomfort too. Take another big breath. Lift a little higher if you can. And then tuck those toes under, hands next to the chest. Lift up to plank and then downward facing dog. Hands push the ground away, so reminding yourself every time you're in down dog, you have the opportunity to lengthen the spine, decompress the spine. And then we're going to pick up the left leg this time. Inhale. Strengthen for a moment, inner thigh rolling in slightly, lifting with the muscles on the back of that leg. And then exhale, bend the knee, open the hip to the side of the room. So strong on the back of the leg, open on the front of the hip. Nice, and then square the hips to the ground. Step the foot between the hands. Right foot comes to a 90-degree angle and we come up into our warrior two. So we're reaching the fingers away from each other. Arms are parallel to the ground, sinking into the hips. We feel the strengthening of the thighs and yet that opening of the groin here as well. Gaze can be to the middle left fingers, sinking down into the hips. And we're going to continue that idea of moving the spine here to free the lower back. So flip left palm up, hand up to the sky. Right hand travels as far down right leg as we can, still sinking into left knee. Notice how it feels to create more space. And often side bending is one of those simple things that we forget about. And you can even do this shape sitting on a chair while you're at work, with the legs like this, or just seated and moving the upper body. And then let's lean forward, forearm comes to the thigh, right arm reaching up and forward. And you'll start by pushing down through the outside edge of that foot, sink deeper into the hips, and then keep reaching fingers. So you actually then get more sensation through the shoulder and chest area here as well. Take another big breath. And then we're going to slowly travel back up through to warrior two. Gaze forward. Cartwheel the hands to the top of the mat as you come onto the ball of the back of the foot. And then step it back into downward facing dog. Hips are nice and high to the sky. Hands are pushing the ground away here. And then on your inhale, let's lift right leg. Internal rotation of femur bones, so toes rolling in a little. Lifting up with the muscles through the back of that right leg. So a little bit of a strength aspect as well. And then bend the knee, open the hip up to the side of the room. So knee lifts upward, stretching out through front of right psoas. Take another breath. And then square those hips to face the ground. Step the foot mindfully forward between the hands. Left foot comes to a 90-degree in angle. And now we face the second direction of our mat, the long end. So we're sinking into the hips. We want the legs to be nice and strong. They're our foundation. from which we can move the upper body. Gaze can be to middle front finger. You can sink down low or stay high. Powerfully reaching the fingers away. So again, opportunity here to strengthen upper back. Let's flip right palm up. Hand reaches up and back. Left hand travels as far down back leg as we can. And then there's that tendency to move away from the bend in the knee. Sink down. Take another big breath as you reach back. Notice how it feels through side body. And then we come back through warrior two, but we come straight to rest forearm on the thigh, left arm reaching up and behind us now. And then still pushing down to the outside edge of that foot. Shoulder draws back, fingers are reaching. And we're using that right forearm to really push into the thigh to create more space in side body here. So lots of different things that we're working with at once. And then we come slowly back up to warrior two. Gaze forward. Cartwheel the hands to the top of the mat, come onto the ball of the back foot. This time step back to plank. Nice and firm, spreading our effort through the whole body. Exhale, chaturanga all the way down. Inhale, baby cobra or cobra. So a bend in the elbows, heart forward, strong upper back here. Taking another breath. Nice, and then just slowly come up through tabletop. Sink yourself into child's pose. Forehead to the ground. Fingers towards the toes, and just let everything relax. If it feels awkward with the fingers back, fingers can come forward here. You can even rest a block underneath your head. And this is a really nice way to open up through lower back here. And what's also nice is that when we add into this shape a little understanding of Chinese medicine as well, the meridian line that runs through the back line of the body here is linking into the kidney health. Kidneys sit just beneath the ribs on the back side. So while you're here, visualize breathing into the back of the lungs. Visualize guiding that breath as far down to the back of the lungs as you can, ribs expanding in this direction. It's also responsible for hormonal balance and imbalance. So we want to breathe energy into the back line of our body, hydrating all of those little energy pathways, breathing into the fascia, the thoracolumbar fascia, this dense area of tissue in the lower back, which is why moving our spine in all the directions that we can is so important daily. 2 more breaths here. And then just slowly beginning to roll yourself up, vertebrae by vertebrae here. And let's just take our feet to the side so our bottom comes to the floor. Have a block handy if you can. Take the legs out ahead of you. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do this. So toes are going to point towards us, which switches on the muscles on the top of the legs. And as we inhale, the arms are going to lift upward. As we exhale, we hinge forward from the hips, and we're reaching the arms to wherever we can get to. We're not just trying to pull ourselves into the shape, though. Core is helping to draw us here. And if you feel like you're very congested in the lower back, something that I really like to do at the moment is pushing a block into that lower belly, not too aggressively. And as I lift up over the block, I'm going to lean my way forward, and it just creates a little bit more space in between the fascia and the tissues of the vertebrae in the lower back, the lumbar area. And then I get to just kind of drapes myself over that block a little. But I'm still thinking of bringing my collarbone, my chest towards my toes. My toes are still reaching towards my heart area. And I'm just looking down, so there's a lengthening through the back of the neck. We spend a lot of our time with these funny angles in our spine, sitting down a lot and yet looking forward with a curled upper back. And the thing is, when we're not moving the body as much as we could or should, and we're all guilty of that from time to time with life just sending us what it has for us to get through the day. And we tell the brain that this is our new normal position. And then it resets. And the tissues stop feeling like they need to be moved. They get used to this new position. And this is when it starts to become dangerous in terms of the risk of injury when we make sudden, unexpected movements, or that one time that we do try to stand up straight and make a movement from there. 2 more breaths. So making time for these small pockets of movement, however they look. even 2 minutes of movement will reset everything for each new day on so many levels. Let's roll ourselves up slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae. If you were working with a block, just releasing the block to the side. Make sure you've got a little space to lie down here. And once you're down on your back, you're just going to hug left knee into the chest, right leg relaxing to the ground. Left arm over to the side of the room, left knee over to the right side of your mat. Upper back stays relaxed to the ground. And just close your eyes. Your gaze is wherever feels good for your neck. And now we're just mobilizing through the outside line of our body here. Finding a little twisting motion through the center of our stomach and digestive area here too. Which is going to be really nice when we come back to neutral, as that energy and freshly oxygenated blood going to rush into that center there and start the healing process that it might need. Notice how it feels to let the left shoulder melt down more. Less control, less gripping or holding on. Last big breath. And then let's carry left leg back through center. Give the knee a little hug here. And then release that leg down to the ground, drawing right knee into the chest. Right arm out to the side of the room. Knee goes across the body to the left side. Gaze wherever feels good here. And just notice how that feels all the way through the outside line of the body. Right shoulder melting downwards, space arriving into the outside line of our stomach, our ribs, our shoulder, outer hip. Twisting through center, a little cleansing motion. Take another big inhale and exhale, just here. And then you'll slowly unwind back through center. The knee has a little hug into the midline, and then just begin to lower legs down to the floor. Some of you might like to place a cushion behind your knees. That can feel quite restorative under the lower back. Upper back is just relaxed. Hands can rest on the belly, or arms can rest alongside the body, wherever it is that feels best for you. And just relax around the jaw, relax the tongue, relax the neck. Soften the space in between the eyebrows, around the edges of the eyes. Enjoying this opportunity, simply resting in stillness. And of course, staying here in Shavasana if you have the time to be here a little longer. Otherwise, just starting to bring a little awareness back into your body as you wiggle your fingers and your toes. Gently reaching the arms up overhead, inviting a nice, long, indulgent, full body stretch. Drawing the knees in towards your chest. Giving them a hug as you roll a little side to side, maybe even back and forth. Eventually coming to roll over and rest for a moment on whichever side suits your body best. And using your hands to eventually push the ground away and lift you up to find a comfortable seat. Resting the hands where you need them as you just pause for a moment, checking into how you feel, both physically and mentally, compared to when we started the practice. And let's just bring the hands together at heart center, a celebration of our movement and our health. bowing our head to our hands in gratitude for the practice. Namaste.